It's not a matter of how, it's a matter of when. What you must understand is that when there's something that you're seeking out, whether it's a career, whether it's a passion, whether it's a hobby, whatever the case may be, you have to be genuinely in love with the process and not so much the outcome. And this is one of the things that I had to learn. I'm in real estate, and there's a lot of things that I've been able to see that showed me how good life can be and what you can generally have out of this life and be in this life and so on and so forth. And for me to be able to see this at a very young age, yes, it's very inspiring and inspirational, but I mean, at the same time, I can't compare my chapter 5 to someone's chapter 50. It just doesn't work like that. And I wouldn't get discouraged about how far along someone is, because you have to go down the bumpy road in order to see the nicely paved, smooth finish road. And what I mean by that is there always are going to be hiccups in the road. There's always going to be bumps in the road, but it's up to you to determine how those bumps and those detours are going to make you feel. And a lot of this stuff for me has just been character development. It has been able to build my endurance muscle of being resilient. It's been able to build my endurance muscle of being competent, being formidable, and so on and so forth. And for you guys that are listening, it's not so much about the result itself. It's about who you became in the process in order to get that result. And you being able to look back at your journey like, damn, I was able to overcome X, Y, and Z is the most fulfilling thing ever. Prime example, when I was seeking out my second internship, I genuinely believed that I knew I was going to get an internship. I already was coming off a first internship where I had great experience on my resume, and I honestly didn't even get the internship till 2 weeks prior to my start date. And it was maybe like a week or two before my semester was ending, my sophomore year, and I really needed to figure out what I was going to do, right? And obviously I was able to build up a network of people during my first internship, in which I did reach out to them, but they just didn't have any opportunities for me at that time. And throughout that course of time, I was constantly on LinkedIn every day trying to figure out what jobs or what internships were available to me at that given moment. And for me, it was really just having the endurance of believing that I know I was going to get an internship. A lot of people would have quit, be like, damn, I only have 2 weeks left in the semester. I don't know if I'm really going to do it. Because a lot of the time, people get internships maybe within the scope of 1 to 3 months after winter break. So once you get back to school second semester, and sometimes they start even in first semester, but most of this internships start in second semester. You start interviewing in March, April, and then you get the offer or whatnot. And for me, obviously everyone was posting their internships on LinkedIn, and I was like, damn, like I don't really know what I'm gonna do. I need to figure this shit out. But I always knew in the back of my head that I always believed in myself, and I know I was gonna figure it the fuck out. And it just so happened that there was this position that was in a totally different state, and they were paying a lot less than what I was initially anticipating. And I ended up applying for the job, and I ended up getting an interview maybe like a day or two later. I'm like, oh shit, now we got some traction. So I speak with HR first, and then they have me do another interview, and that's where I speak with the manager that was working with me during that summer. So we were talking, and I was kind of telling her about my experience and asking them questions and so on and so forth. But it really is a true testament when you really see and you really genuinely see yourself and how you observe yourself, like how bad do you genuinely want this shit. And I made a personal promise to myself that I was going to do real estate regardless until the day I die. And I didn't, at that time, I was coming out of high school and I didn't really know what real estate I wanted to do. But I think over time, and with me having a vision for myself, I knew I wanted to do big and impactful things. And I just knew single family wasn't it. It was a start for sure for me to get a baseline understanding of how to underwrite, how to familiarize myself with terminology, how to analyze a good deal from a bad deal. But I knew in the back of my head I wanted to do big things. And my first internship was real estate development. And I never looked back. And then that second internship that I was just talking about, that was more like the commercial property management stuff. So I had to do a lot of deferred maintenances. I did a lot of talking with GCs and reviewing leases and so on and so forth. So A lot of that stuff I was able to see and was able to give me a hands-on experience as to how the property management system works. Obviously, it's not what I desired, but it was a stepping stone in the right direction, and that's why I took the opportunity. Some people will neglect opportunities that are a stepping stone within their career. Yes, did I take a pay cut? Yes, did I do the internship in a different state? All those things could have been derivatives to push me away from taking that opportunity, but I took it anyway because I was going to make something of it. Whether it was meeting some people, whether it was an opportunity that was going to expand into something else, or just a new learning experience for me to be able to look at something and be able to analyze it and be able to have a level of discernment to really understand how would I go about doing what would I do in this situation and why would I do it in this situation. And for me, having those experiences to really understand how leases work, what makes a good tenant from a bad tenant, how long these leases are, who's responsible for what, all these things are a building factor and a contributor to real estate development. You have your property management. You have to make sure your leases are all in place because that determines who's liable for what and who's responsible for what. And when you don't have those regulations set in stone on that piece of paper, then that's where things can go left and right. And that's where your tenants could sue you for something, or there's just misinterpretation behind who's responsible for what. And throughout this process, I've been able to not only grow, be more professional and get better at communicating, but also too, just having a better understanding of what it is that I genuinely want and enjoy in the process. Yes, I've spent a lot of money, and are there moments in time where I should have never spent that amount of money? No, but I genuinely believe in myself and I know that I'll be able to make that money back. Now, I'm not one of those motherfuckers that don't do anything and just say that and then down the line their credit card racks up to 10, 20, 30,000 like a dumbass. No, that's not what I'm saying. I use that tool because there will be a point in time there, because the way business works, things can be unexpected and you just have to be prepared for the unexpected. So what I would do is that I would spend a certain amount of money that was a little bit of a stretch for me, and it allowed me to figure out different ways to make more money, whether that was helping like consult or helping somebody out on the side, or whether that was me still doing the habits and doing the things that got me to where I was today. So let's say if there was something that I was always doing, let's say, for example, in my internship, I met 10 people every year, right? So let's say let's say I normally spend $500 a month. Let's say I spend $800 a month. So that $800 a month was spent, right? But I didn't stop doing the things that got me up until that point to make that certain amount of money. So I didn't get comfortable. That's the most important thing. I didn't get complacent. I didn't get content, and I didn't get complacent. And me putting myself in that quote unquote stressful situation has been able to allow me to think strategically about different ways to make more money and be a value add. And for me at that time, there were some skills that I didn't have that could have been applicable to certain people or certain situations. So I worked on those skills, i.e., learning to get familiar with the model, understanding the rules and regulations of what real estate development is, knowing what zoning is, knowing what entitlement is, knowing how to deal with GCs and architects, knowing how to keep everyone on the same page, construction timeline, construction budget. All those things were things that I was learning throughout the course of time. And for me to be able to put myself in that uncomfortable situation with the money has allowed me to be able to do certain things and has been able to allow me to expand within my scope of work. Now, obviously, you don't have to do this, but it was more so putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation in order to force yourself to grow. And a lot of the time, people get complacent with where they are, what they're doing on a daily basis, and there's no there's no spark, there's no get up and do it, there's no do or die. Like, you have to have certain sparks within yourself that are going to push you in certain endeavors that are only going to be a net benefit. If you don't want it as bad as you think, okay, you have to be real with yourself. But for those of you that are listening and you know that you really want to do whatever it is that you want, you have to give this shit 150%. This shit is all or nothing. If you half-ass it, you'll get half-ass results. If you do it to the max, you will reap the reward in the end. And don't get discouraged about the money aspect. Just know that you're gonna work. All right, I got a little better. Work. I got a little better. Work. I got a little better. Work. Now I get the payout. Work. Now I get the payout. Work. Now I get an even bigger payout. Work. Now I get an even bigger payout. That's just the way it works. Yours could be a year. It could be 5 years. It could be 10 years. It could be 15 years. But don't get discouraged about the timeline. Just do what you need to do on a daily basis that is going to get you closer to that goal. If you guys like this video, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see y'all in the next one.